there are a couple things that are certain in life. One, I'm going to have on Bulls gear, and two, the Chicago Bulls are definitely, the tank is on for the Chicago Bulls. It's not even subtle anymore. The Chicago Bulls now have the fourth hardest schedule remaining in the NBA, and they're the only non-playoff team that's even in the top 10 of hardest schedules remaining. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the build that a lot of Bulls fans have been absolutely begging for, and why Artūras Karnišovas and Billy Donovan are likely to still come out on the other side of this, whether they are successful or not. We're going to talk about all that and how AK is just going to pivot right back to being competitive this summer. All that and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And yeah, man, the tank is clearly on for the Chicago Bulls, and I just think there's not really any other way to discuss that at this point in time. The Chicago Bulls have the fourth hardest schedule remaining for the rest of the way of the NBA season. And while we do have a nice little break there between February 11th, which is our last game, we don't take the court again to February 19th. So we have a week off there. I think what's going to be key for the Chicago Bulls in that time is that getting some more practices in. The team has only had a couple of practices since the trade deadline when everything went down. And so post All-Star break schedule for the Bulls, you know, it's going to be a lot of L's. I just don't think there's any way around that at this point in time. The rest of this season, there are going to be a lot of L's for this team, and we'll see what's going to happen there. Now, the problem with that is, well, not necessarily the problem, is that the Chicago Bulls, even despite the number of L's that they're going to take, it's still going to be very difficult for them to get further down the standings. Now, with the Charlotte Hornets, they're going to have a number of suspensions after the fight that happened. They did pass the Chicago Bulls. Right now, they have a one-game lead on the Chicago Bulls for that 10th and final spot. The Milwaukee Bucks, who signed Cam Thomas, and Giannis Antetokounmpo is reportedly going to be coming back sooner rather than later. They have a chance to also pass the Chicago Bulls up. But the Bulls aren't catching the Brooklyn Nets. They aren't catching the Washington Wizards. They aren't catching the Indiana Pacers. They're not going to have a worse record than the Utah Jazz. They're not going to have a worse record than the Pelicans or the Sacramento Kings. So the Bulls are really looking at, probably having, around the 10th best odds in the lottery is probably where you're going to go. Maybe they can get up. Maybe they can get up to 9th. Depending on how some things, go for some of these other teams. But I don't see them really getting better than that. Now, lottery odds are lottery odds. It's a lottery for a reason. So even with the Bulls having, if they do end up having only the 9th best chance at the draft, right, as far as to get to move up into that lottery, it's still a lottery. So they can still, get maybe some lottery luck happens. Now, that's a bunch of what ifs. I'm not going to get them credit for that. But even if they stay at number 10, there are a number of players there around that area that can help the Chicago Bulls. Jaden Quintessence, I believe is how you pronounce it. I know I'm killing his name right now. I'll get better. Is one. Yaxel Lindenberg from Michigan is another player that's going to be around that as well. But, of course, Chicago Bulls fans, of course, want to know, can we get Cam Boozer? Can we get Darren Peterson? Can we get AJ DiBensanta, I believe is how you pronounce it? Can we get one of those guys? Can we get Caleb Wilson, who's all those guys are probably going to go in the top 5, right? And that's outside the Bulls' control at this point in time. If they wanted to increase their chances to get that, but we've seen ethical tanking be a thing, right? When you look at the last few teams that have actually won the lottery, those have been teams that actually were gearing and aiming to actually make the play-in, or some of those teams did make the play-in, they just didn't make it out the play-in, right? So this is definitely a soft tank for the Chicago Bulls, and I think that's what it is. Now that speaks to a larger problem in tanking around the NBA. That's just the way to improve in the NBA. Like, there's other ways to do it. And, we've talked about those ways. It's not, tanking doesn't guarantee you anything. It gives you a shot at it, right? And a lot of things that give you a shot at it, but it doesn't guarantee you anything. And with the Bulls' luck, I just wonder, my mind goes to, if we did all this to tank this season and we still end up with the player in the top 10 that ends up not being the star, what does that then do, right? This isn't about whether they should take the chance or not. This is about what the end result ends up being. We won't know that for years, right? Like, We won't know the exact end result of what the Bulls are doing right now for years, more than likely. Now, maybe there's a chance that whoever we draft makes an instant impact and is an impact player from day one. And if that happens, hey, great. Us as Bulls fans, we get something exciting to talk about. We get a direction for this team, all that type of stuff. Amazing. Great if that ends up being the case. But you can't tell me that at least a little bit of it is because of AK's inability to draft consistently that it's a surefire thing. Like, I don't, if there are, let's say there are 3 players on the board when the Bulls draft that are viewed as can't miss product. And that's not that, right? But let's just say that. I would look at AK and be like, out of these 3 players that all people are thinking are can't miss, the Bulls are going to pick the one that ends up being the miss. Because I just don't trust AK. Like, Modest, a hit. Io was a hit. Everything else has been mad questionable to bad, right? Like, like Julian Phillips as a second-round pick, you guys know, for second-round picks, I don't judge them too hard. Either they turn into some type of NBA player or they don't. If it's anything more than that, you got lucky, like with Io DeSumo, right? But, missing on the Dalen Terry pick, missing on the P. Will pick, like all of that. The Noah Essengay right now is a question. I'm not going to call that a miss at all because I do think he has a great chance to be a really solid two-way player in this league. But at the end of the day, like, it's just, I don't trust AK. And that's what this all comes down to. Regardless of whatever path for the Chicago Bulls chose, do you trust AK to get it done? And, we'll talk about it more in a minute. And I don't think AK, like Bulls fans want AK's job to be in jeopardy, but I don't think this job is in jeopardy at any point in time, anytime soon. But I will say this. It's glad that we didn't double down on continuity again for a roster that, while I do think could have been better had they had better health this year, you missed your window. Like, they had a window in which they felt like they had to have a proof of concept because of injuries, because of other things, lack of forward movement, coaching. They didn't make that window to where it justified, all right, let's rely on continuity to some degree. And, the Bulls have now given their chance and their opportunity to go in it. Now, is tanking a problem in the NBA? Yeah. But I'm of the mindset that I just don't think there's really anything you could do for tanking. There's just that. Like, if teams are legitimately bad, what are you going to do? Keep them from being in the lottery? So, the Bulls are in a soft tank mode to where, the roster just doesn't make sense. We don't have balance. The roster just does not make sense, right? Now, of course, Josh Giddey, Tre Jones, Jalen Smith, they're still out for where it stands right now. But it is what it is, right? So when you have a lottery where it's based off the worst record gets a higher chance at this pick. Now, I think the NBA does it kind of better than some leagues, right? Like, well, imagine if the NBA wasn't even a lottery, that the worst record automatically got the first pick. You know how many teams would be more aggressive? Like, there would be teams that literally won single-digit games in the season if that ended up being the case. So, they try to do it as much as they can, but this is where the Bulls are now. They have made their move to be in this spot in a generational draft. If this draft ends up being what people said it is, say that it is and think that it could be, this is a generational draft. So at this point now, this team, the Bulls are trying to take their shot in that, right? So the question isn't anymore about if the Bulls are tanking this season. They are tanking the rest of the way of this season. It is what it is. And let me word it this way. Winning is no longer a priority by the Chicago Bulls organization for the rest of the 2025-26 season. That's what I'll say. The question is, does it last longer than this season? That's the question that's the topic that I have a more interest in talking about. Is it going to last longer than this season? I doubt AK has a willingness to prioritize draft position for multiple years. And I could absolutely be wrong in that. I want to be clear. This is not one of those things where I'm like, oh, there's no way that he's going to do that possibly. I just, in my own personal opinion, I just don't see AK from what we've seen from him, what we also have seen from him back in his Denver days. I don't see AK as being somebody that's going to prioritize draft position for multiple years. I just don't see it. Now, we could do much like we did this season to where AK may make his move this offseason, and then if the season starts off and we're, 25, 30 games in and it's like, this ain't working, maybe again he does it again. But I fully do believe that AK is going to make his move to put this team right back in what he views as competitiveness next season. And part of the reason, and this is where my thought process is with this, right? Part of the reason why I think that AK wasn't bothered too much by not getting a lot of future first-round picks back in his trades is because it's not about the future first-round picks. It's about the picks in this draft. I believe, and I hope that AK not only just saw this draft for the talent that's in it, but maybe he pinpointed a player that he wants to target or players that he wants to target. Maybe if he feels, hey, if we fall in the top 3, this is the guy that I want to get. If we're in the top 10, these are the 2 guys that I think we can really get. And that's what I think. And I think part of the reason why you didn't prioritize those first-round picks and we got so many second-round picks back is because AK is going to be willing and dealing this offseason to get this team back to being what he views, again, as competitiveness. And the reason why I put the quotation marks up is because what AK has called competitiveness before ended up being bullshit. So, that's why I put the quotation marks up. But I believe that AK is going to use those second-round picks, which he has never really valued up until this point, for flexibility this offseason. What do you mean by that, Haize? This is what I mean. A, you have now 13 future first-round picks. You can now use those picks to try to trade up in this draft. Meaning, let's say you wind up in the lottery, and let's say you wind up at 11th, but you think the guy that you want is going to go to 9th. Who's to say that you can't package the future Portland pick, or you can't package, because we've seen it. Second-round picks are sweeteners now in trades. You can't say, hey, we're going to throw 5 future seconds at you with our own first-round pick to move up 2 spots. That's what I think is going to happen. Or when you look at it, sign-in trades. When you look at even signing restricted free agents, maybe you try to work out a sign-in trade for one of the restricted free agents rather than just putting an offer sheet out and having the team match it. But maybe you do that and you say, hey, listen, because we have so much cap space, our sign-in trade, because you keep in mind, for sign-in trades in the offseason, only half the base level compensation goes towards salary matching. But with the Bulls having as much open cap space as what they have, they don't have to match salary. So we can sign a player. We can sign and trade a player at that $30 million, absorb them into our cap space. And we're going to send you all these seconds, and if the Portland pick doesn't convey, boom, a future first round pick that's eventually going to convey for you. And I really think AK said it a couple of years ago. Give us to the summer of 2026. And I think that the flexibility here, I just do not see AK not using that future flexibility, or it's now the flexibility, to not try to be aggressive about going out there and getting guys. I don't think this is going to be, for people that are like, oh man, this is going to be 2 or 3 years. I don't think so. Now, I'm not saying that means we're going to come out the other side of this after this season and be like this surefire 6th, 5th seed in the East, but I just don't see AK prioritizing the draft for multiple years. I don't see it happening. So I do think the Bulls are going to use those future seconds that they acquired. They could have 3 picks in the top 32. They have 2 second-round picks in this draft, even if that Portland pick does not convey. I think that this is going to be an offseason where we see AK be aggressive in the draft, aggressive in the restricted free agent market, and maybe even aggressive in the sign and trade market to stack more stuff. I think that's what we're going to see. I'm not saying that that's the right path. I'm not saying that they're going to be successful in that path, but I am saying it's complete speculation on my part. But my money is I'm willing to put my money on AK looking at this and saying, oh yeah, multiple years? Oh no, we're going to be right back competing, right back for that 6th seed next season, which is probably actually going to be more like the 9th seed. But I can see that happening. And the problem with this is it goes back to, again, what a lot of you guys have pointed out, ownership. Do any of us really feel like AK's job and Billy Donovan's job is at risk? Notice what I'm saying. Let's pay attention to the words. No, I am not saying that their jobs should not be at risk. That's not what I'm saying. But do we believe that their jobs actually are at risk? Those are 2 very different questions. Should their job be at risk? Yeah. Billy Donovan is on pace to have his 5th losing season for the Chicago Bulls. That's what he's on pace to have. 5th. I talked about it before. I gave you guys the numbers before. There has not been coaches in any league, in any sport that have been allowed to have a losing record for that long and keep their job. There's just not been it. You will probably find maybe in the single digits across all the major sports. I'm talking about baseball, football, soccer, hockey, everything, basketball. Across the major sports, you would be seldom to find a coach that can have 5 losing seasons and their job not be risk, or they even still have a job. It's seldom to do that for the same franchise. Now, maybe they've done it across multiple franchises where they got another job, but I'm talking about for the same franchise. Hell, Vinny Del Negro, not to say that he was the most amazing coach, finished with a 500 record, never got another coaching job after the Clippers. But Billy Donovan, right, 5 years out of 6, a losing record, still here. So that's the problem in all of this. I would love to say that we have an ownership that holds people accountable, that it holds their president, their GM, everybody to a results-based system. But we don't have that. We don't have that. So it's a problem because like AK should be feeling even more pressure than what he feels. He says he feels pressure from the fan base. He says he feels pressure from the lineage and Chicago Bulls fans and what this franchise and this fan base deserves. At this point, it's been all lip service. Who's holding him accountable to that pressure? It's surely not the Reinsdorfs. That's for damn sure. And so that's just what it comes down to, man. So we'll see. I don't know what else to say in regards to it. We'll see what happens with this Bulls team. We'll see if I'm right on this. I think that the Bulls are going to try to tout out a competitive thing. Now, hopefully they're successful at it. If AK makes the moves this offseason, I had speculated, hey, let's draft our center of the future. If Isaiah Hartenstein is his options not picked up by the Bulls, I'm great for some. I'm there day one to get Isaiah Hartenstein. I'm not mad at putting a shorter offer sheet out for Mark Williams either, whatever that ends up being. I'm okay with that. But it's just I just can see that path. I can see that path. And we'll see, man. We'll see what's going to happen here. The question then becomes about as well, how do the Bulls manage the schedule that's upcoming? The Bulls have an absolutely brutal schedule here. And after the All-Star break, it gets even uglier for the Chicago Bulls. Over the last, after the All-Star break, the Bulls have 23, 24-ish games left on their record. And with the schedule just getting harder from here on out, it's going to be difficult for this team. And so the losses are going to stack. The Bulls are going to they're not going to have a problem with losing if that's their goal, right? 17 of the Chicago Bulls' remaining games are against teams that are ranked in the top 8 or higher in the league. And so for this team that's makeshift, this team that hasn't had, is not going to have a bunch of chance to build some chemistry, this is going to be an ugly season. But then that goes back to what I said before. The fact of the matter is we can have that ugly season, but guess what's still coming down the pipeline? Billy Donovan's still going to have a job. AK's still going to have a job. All this stuff's still going to be sitting right there for the Chicago Bulls with nothing changing, nothing actually moving, and nobody at risk to get fired. And listen, Bulls fans have the right to get mad. And this is why I say, while I don't agree with not going, I'm not going to push people to not go to games. If you decide to not go to games, I support you in that decision. If you decide to say, I'm not doing nothing with the Bulls, I'm not spending money on nothing for the Bulls until they put out a product that shows that they respect us, I support that 100%. Whatever way that you want to show your discomfort and happiness with this team, do that. Dissatisfaction, that was the word that I was looking for. Do that. I want everybody, I implore you to do that by whatever means necessary. I don't necessarily think it gets the best results, especially for a Jerry Reinsdorf-owned team. You see now the damn White Sox are starting to finally make moves, but it's interesting that happened after a leadership ownership, not an official change, but the scheduled ownership change is coming, right? It's just those type of things that I look at and I'm just like, this is just such. It's a franchise that the fan base there's very few fan bases that are as passionate, as loyal, and as dedicated as Chicago Bulls fans. I want to be clear there. And this is why I love this fan base so much, because there are very few people that are not rocking with this, that halfway rock with this team. Very loyal. But at some point, that shit gets old. That shit wears out. That shit wears thin. And you're just looking at it and saying, listen, I may love you, but you ain't loving me back, so I ain't got shit for you. I think that's where, if a lot of Bulls fans are admitting it, that's where a lot of people are right now with this franchise, is that they love the team and they would definitely root for the team if the team was back being what they needed it to be. But people are tired, and rightfully so. People are tired of this product that the Chicago Bulls are putting out here. People are tired about giving so much to a team that doesn't love you back. People are tired of that. And fans have the right to speak out on that in the way that they can. It's just unfortunate because I don't think we have an ownership that gives a damn. Go ahead and put up another billboard. Put your money on that billboard. Do that. That billboard didn't do shit because when it was time for actual changes, guess what? The freaking ownership went to AK, was taken over and said, hey, we want you to keep an open mind about keeping on Jim Boylan, who was part of the pain for Bulls fans at that point in time. So let's be real here, man. It sucks to have, again, an ownership group that doesn't care about you. And that's really what we have here. That's this is not reporting. This is just me venting at this point. I'm venting right now. It sucks to have an ownership group that doesn't give a shit about us, because they have left us with idiots at the helm riding the ship, and they're just like, yep, they'll either figure it out or they'll die. We dying, motherfucker. We dying. We are actively dying. Help us. Help us. But nonetheless, the last question that I do have here that I want to talk about on this episode is what is going on with Josh Giddey, Tre Jones, and Jalen Smith, right? Jalen is kind of more straightforward. I do think Jalen is going to be back. I think we have a clear kind of thing what's going on with Jalen. But this Josh Giddey thing, a lot of Bulls fans, every live stream that I do, people are like, is he going to be shut down for the rest of the way? And I can't say no because I don't know. I don't know what they plan on doing. And that part is also a part that sucks because, like, if you are going to plan on sitting him, cool. I mean, who can say anything about that? We can't control that. But you would like to think that if any of these guys, if you have a thought about keeping any of these guys, which Anthony Simons should be somebody that's viewed as that if he wants to say you should keep him, you should look at keeping Jaden Ivey depending on what he costs in restricted free agency, all that type of stuff. But can you truly evaluate them if they haven't got a chance to be out there with Josh Giddey? And hopefully after the All-Star break, that question gets eliminated, and then we are looking at Josh Giddey being back on the court. And, you know, we'll probably do some weird lineup things like Billy Donovan's done with the last game to ensure losses. But it's just this team, again, like we always say, and a lot of people always say with this team, it's asshole backwards on so much. They go 1 foot in, 1 foot out on so many things that just leave you to believe that, like, what is actually happening here? So I guess we'll see. We'll be here. I'll be here along for the ride and every step of the way to talk to you guys about it. And I guess just lottery luck. Is that what we're already doing? We're already at the point of hoping for lottery luck? I guess that's all that we can hope for. The next 25-ish games are going to tell us everything about not only this team, but the front office. Not just about the season, but where we're going as a franchise, what the goals are as a franchise. So let me know. Do you trust what you think the plan is here for the Chicago Bulls? Are we headed right back to the middle as soon as next year? Drop your thoughts down below. I want to hear from you guys on that one. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.